to Olympian Water Testing, giving you the best in water analysis. Today we're looking at U.S. news. 2/3 of the U.S. water systems contain uranium, so this is cause for concern. What's going on here? As we can see, 2/3 of the U.S. community water systems have detectable levels of uranium, and the highest levels are in the Hispanic communities, according to a new study. Previous studies have found associations between chronic uranium exposure and the increased risk of hypertension, cardiovascular disease, kidney damage, and lung cancer at high levels of exposure, said researcher Ann Narja, the assistant professor of the environmental sciences at Columbia University, Mailman School of Public Health in New York. Even at low concentrations, uranium, a radioactive metal, is an important risk factor for chronic diseases, but there has been little research on chronic uranium exposure from tap water. About 90% of Americans rely on community water systems, and between 2000 and 2011, 2.1% of those water systems had an average annual uranium concentration that exceeded the EPA's maximums. Uranium was detected in water systems 63% of the time during compliance monitoring. According to the U.S. CDC and prevention, ingesting large quantities of uranium can cause several cancers and damage kidneys. Semi-urban Hispanic communities had the highest levels of uranium, as well as selenium, barium, chromium, and arsenic, the study found. Elevated levels of these metals were found in Hispanic communities independent of location or region. So it's not just in one place. You might think, I'm fine if I'm in this place, or if I'm in a rural area or municipal area, but that might not be so. And it's raising concerns for these communities and the possibility of inequalities in the public drinking water, according to findings in the April 6th, The Lancet Planetary Health. The consistent association between elevated levels of uranium and other metals in drinking water suggests a failure of regulatory policy or water treatment rather than the underlying geology, Nigra and colleagues said. They noted that the Hispanic Americans have a number of health disparities, including increased death due to diabetes, as well as liver, kidney, and heart disease. Additional regulatory policies, compliance enforcement, and improved infrastructure are therefore necessary to reduce disparities in the community, metal concentrations, and protect communities served by public water systems and elevated metal level concentrations. Nagra said in a Columbia news release, such interventions and policies should be specifically to protect the most highly exposed communities, to advance environmental justice, and to protect public health. So there's a lot here. It is being affected in these communities, but how do you know if there's high levels of uranium? How do you know if there's high levels of barium? We can see that there is an issue, not with just this contaminant, which is a radioactive metal, but with others. So this is very dangerous, especially in these communities where there is a disparity. The only way to truthfully know if you have high levels of uranium, though, is to test it. That's why it's always a good idea to periodically test your water for any traces of uranium.